Hi boys and girls. For the learning grid, I have asked you to do a picture and then tell me a story about it. So I thought that I would do the same and give you a wee example. So this is what I've done. This is my drawing. I have a ladybird and a fairy and a rainy cloud and a bunny and a spade and some Easter eggs, a magical forest and a sun. So my story begins like this. Once upon a time there was a little town called Pennycook, and in it there was a lovely nursery called Cookin, and the boys and girls were so kind at Cookin. They loved gardening and they were trying to make their garden really nice. They wanted to grow fruit and vegetables. So the adventure begins like this. One day, the boys and girls were in the garden and it was a really rainy day and really wet, but the boys and girls were still working really hard. They were using their big spade and they were digging holes to plant their giant sunflower seeds. The boys and girls had been out a really long time digging because it was really hard work. But they decided it was getting really wet and cold, so they were going to go inside. But all of a sudden, the sun came out and they heard a magical noise, a magical jingling, and the boys and girls looked and they could see a sparkly little fairy floating in the sky. And she landed on the book nook and she said, "Hello boys and girls. The boys and girls at Cookin are just so lovely and they've been looking after the garden and the little insects and animals that live in it, so I'm going to send them on a magic adventure." The magic fairy waved her wand, and with a flash and a bang and a puff of smoke, the boys and girls were all tiny. Then she waved her wand again, and some ladybirds came marching over in a row over to where the boys and girls were. The boys and girls were lost in the grass. The grass was so tall next to them being so tiny. But the fairy said, "Boys and girls, hop on the ladybirds' backs and they're going to fly you to a magical land." The boys and girls were a bit scared, but they jumped on because they were quite excited about going to a magic land. So they were up and they were flying in the air, and they could see down below, they could see their nursery and they could see their houses and they could see Tesco's. They were flying for a long time when they landed. They landed in a strange forest that had tall trees that went all the way up to the sky, and flowers that were purple with pink spots and wiggly stems, and there were stripy ones. They were really funny looking flowers, and on the flowers there was lots of fairies fluttering all around them. And there was animals everywhere, and the animals could speak. In the distance they could hear a thumping noise. It was getting louder and closer to them. There was a rustling in the trees, and out popped a giant fluffy bunny. He said, "Hello boys and girls, it's lovely to meet you all. My name's Eric the Easter Bunny. You can only stay in this magic land a little while or you will stay tiny. You can go, this is the magic land where Easter eggs are made. You can go and take one Easter egg each. You can hunt and then you will need to leave." So the boys and girls looked around them and they can see there was Easter eggs everywhere. They were in the trees and floating down the river and down holes. So the boys and girls ran as fast as they could. They climbed the trees and they went down the holes, and they each got an Easter egg, their favourite colour they wanted. And then they hopped back on their ladybirds and they flew through the sky back to nursery. They got back just in time for the grown-ups coming to pick them up. They lined up at the gate like we do every day, and Debbie came out the door. She was looking everywhere. She couldn't see the boys and girls, because they were still tiny, and Debbie looked like a giant. The fairy came floating back. They could hear the jingling sound as she appeared, and she waved her wand again, and there was a flash and a bang and a puff of smoke, and the children were huge again. And Debbie was really confused. She didn't understand how the children had just appeared. She said, "Where did you come from, boys and girls?" The boys and girls just giggled and went out the gate to their grown-ups and went home. And they slept all night because they had had such a big adventure. Happy Easter, everyone.